Welcome to the Road Back podcast.
We're so glad you're here. I'm Melissa.
And I'm Desiree. We're two trauma-informed coaches and real-life friends.
If you're returning to yourself, your dreams, or your sense of belovedness, this podcast is for you.
We'll pull from our own stories and hard-earned wisdom to support your journey.
So take a breath and remember,
you belong exactly as you are.
Welcome to today's episode. We are excited to dive into a conversation around survival tips for getting through the holidays with joy and delight rather than just trying to survive them. We want you to thrive, not just survive the holidays.
So good.
Consider this your holiday survival guide. Des and I are going to cover 3 areas. We're going to talk about relational dynamics. We're going to talk about how to manage our finances so it doesn't feel like our credit cards take over. And also some self-care and regulation techniques to keep ourselves well tended to and taken care of in a season that can often be marked by a lot of excess and a lot of craziness that can be both beautiful and challenging.
I love that. I think that this season in general, the next 6 or 7 weeks, is often both really exciting. There's parts of me that gets really excited. I'm super grateful. I can feel the joy that my kids have about the season. And there's parts of me that want to shut down. There's so many aspects to a holiday season. There's relationship triggers, and we can have a real sense of performance and having to get everything done, finding the perfect gift, whatever it is. There's all the holiday parties at the kids' schools and youth groups. The volume of things is just incredible. And so if you find yourself in a mixed experience of both joy and anticipation, but also holidays are a time where we get triggered. What do you think about that, Mel? Do you think you get triggered at holidays?
Oh my goodness. Do we get triggered? I think that it's difficult to navigate any major celebrations, big gatherings, holidays, especially when you're joining together with family, sometimes family that you don't see very often. And it's easy for some of those old wounds to get stirred up, similar roles to get stirred up, even just when you're traveling. Moving time zones can be a major disruptor. And sometimes we just go in and think, okay, it's the holidays, I'm going to power through. And this is our gentle reminder to you to pause, to notice. We're going to share some common things that we've seen in our own lives that we think many of you will relate to, and then some of the ways we've tried to set ourselves up for success. Both of us have come to a point where we're not expecting perfection anymore. We're just going, how do I move through the holidays with more self-awareness, with more presence, with more intention, while recognizing that nobody's perfect and I'm going to have days where I'm struggling. I'm going to have times where maybe I overdo it, and some of those things that just are part of human nature when we're getting together with loved ones and in the busyness of the season.
So good. I mean, I loved this anchoring into being present, but not necessarily perfect. One of the biggest things I would want myself to remember, and even the listener to remember, is how can you come with a lot of self-compassion, a lot of humanity towards yourself, holding that space, because I think self-compassion can go a long way for us in this next season.
So this is your guide to going through the holidays with greater awareness, greater compassion, greater presence, and hopefully greater ease as a result. Let's dive into the conversation about relationships, because many of us will be spending time with family over the holidays. Des, let's talk about what might throw off your balance when it comes to navigating interpersonal relationships. Sometimes you have people in your home, or you're traveling to other people's houses, or there's lots of gatherings. Talk a little bit about relational dynamics.
Yeah, there can be an overall pressure to see everybody, do everything, be at all the get-togethers. Just being aware that we can put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be at everything, and that might not be the best way for you to get through this holiday season. I'm just wanting us all to hear permission. Being at everything does not equal holiday success. And I think that holding the balance of you probably want this thing, but it may not be the best time for this to happen. So how can you plan a get together later? I think that
Uh,
that's an aspect of growth and of awareness is like maybe in February, that's a better time to hang out or to have a meal or to do the thing that you wanted to do with your old bestie. So it's expanding your options with more diversity in the thoughts of how that could be. So it works out. Maybe it's not always dinner. Maybe it's a breakfast.
mm.
Maybe it's going to the park. What are your thoughts? What tends to throw you off balance in the holiday season relationally?
Because I often host holidays at my house if people are going to be in town, I've just noticed the dynamic of having people in your personal space. I love hosting. I also recognize my children, for instance, they are all in different rooms. And so anytime I have visitors come, somebody's going to move out of their room into another part of the house. And so there's just that natural movement. It's not a problem. It's not something I resent, but it changes the dynamic a little bit. Another thing can be noticing other people's emotions. Different people in the house have different personalities. How do the personalities gel with one another? Where do we feel tension?
Yeah.
Noticing the interpersonal dynamics. Maybe some people get along really well. Maybe there's tension between other members. And especially when people are in my space, the desire to be a good hostess can make me feel overly aware of how everybody else is doing. And am I doing a good job? Am I taking on too much responsibility? How much responsibility do I have to make sure everybody's having a good time and they're tended to? Am I allowed to take a step back and take a break? Some of those things definitely play into mind. Do you have anything to add about having people in your space?
I tend to host so many gatherings so that we can all get together. It's that heart of, I love these people. Let's do this. I love to host as well. But I love that you shared that sometimes we can get in our heads of how do you hostess the right way? Even noticing that there's a belief that there's a right or wrong way
Yes.
can eliminate so much pain for us. This isn't about passing or failing. You're not going to get graded.
Sometimes it feels like you are, though, depending on the family member.
Exactly. And I think that that's what's important to notice is like, oh, this is maybe a sense that I'm getting graded by somebody else. Is this true? And do I really care? And do I need to have a boundary? I think those are great questions. Holidays can just bring so many changes. My son comes home and he sleeps in my office. We're sharing the space, and there's a lot to navigate. There's so many more emotional and relational dynamics to
It's a
navigate.
disruption to daily
is.
routine.
It is. And to acknowledge that it's not bad, but it is happening. It's there.
The awareness of it, I think, is important.
I think similarly, sometimes you're coming into holidays and you know that Joe Blow and so aren't getting along. And emotional, mental, relational bandwidth that takes up inside of a family dynamic can sometimes either take up the whole holiday or the whole meal or the whole evening. But also, how do you break some codependency and allow them to be right where they're at in the process and to not take on the role of mediating everything, or maybe this is a great time where you could have certain boundaries as well of what you won't let people talk to you about.
Because it could be quite dysregulating if you do get sucked
Yes.
into the roles that we often can play in life.
Yes. And this historic familial role, I have a large family, a lot of siblings. And so there's this childhood role that I've used to always have of being the glue or keeping everyone together. It's like, oh, how am I slipping into that? As soon as I walk through the door, I'm going from 45-year-old Des to 10-year-old Des and sort of, oh, I'll let you talk to me about it. But perhaps just acknowledging that can be happening can help you navigate back towards, no, I don't want to be that person today, or I don't have the capacity now to listen, or I'm going to let you guys be right where you're at.
Yeah, there's a lot of invitation for awareness. And sometimes when we get swept up in the busyness of everything, we can become less conscious of what's going on internally. And what I'm hearing you say and share as an invitation to check in, to notice, to just pay attention. And it's not about never getting triggered on the holidays. It's not about, oh, I'm going to step into the house and I'm never going to accidentally slip back into that role of Des as a child. But it's
Yeah.
noticing and learning to be aware, and then in the moment, perhaps making a different choice and saying, well, what other options do I have, rather than unconsciously slipping into the
Right.
way that we've, quote, always done it. What are some potentially different ways that I could show up in this time? And we want to talk about this so that you can pause and think and create some intentionality before you enter some of these spaces, just to be aware of, oh, what's the way I typically show up here? And is there a possibility that I might want to show up differently this time? And if so, what would that look like?
I was just thinking one of the ways I encourage my clients as we're preparing for holidays is, even if in one interaction you were more present, more
Yes.
connected to your adult self, more authentic, you knew your heart, you knew the boundary you needed, even one time, that is a win. That is so positive. And so if you think if you think you've done that maybe 3 times in the next 6 weeks, that will be a huge success. That is so important. So I like to really give myself some human expectations of what
Mhm.
that could look like when you're growing in awareness. So love it.
What are some ways that you find that help you come back to yourself? We've touched on some of the things about awareness and checking in. Are there any specific practices that help you come back?
As a healing codependent, I'm the president of the club practically. Something I notice about myself is when I get into a holiday setting, am I really thinking a lot about my mom in the kitchen? Am I overly concerned with the state of other people around me? Am I really concerned about my daughter? If I'm overly concerned with another person's experience, I usually go, pause. Time to take a little break. Because I've been working on this, I can do this in real time and shift back to myself. I walk outside. I go by the fire pit. I get out of the larger setting and into a more cozy spot where I can regain a sense of, Des, what are you feeling? What's happening right now? What do you need? Do you need some water? Do you need a break from taking care of everybody? I'm going to give you permission to take a break from that. That's my little hack. When I notice my head really spinning, I'll pause, go to the bathroom, go outside, do something like that. How about you? Do you have any tips?
These are really practical ones that I think are applicable to me, but I think anybody could cut and paste or fill in the blank. I know I tend to do a lot of the cooking in my family, especially if I'm hosting. The cooking has historically fallen on my shoulders. And a couple of years ago, I had some conversations with my husband because he's a really good cook as well. And I had been realizing that in the years prior, I was putting so much pressure on myself to get stuff done that often I felt like I was missing out on some of the celebrations. And then I would find myself getting a low grade irritation, kind of frustrated feeling. And it took me a while to realize, oh, it's just because I need more help. When I chatted with my husband about it and was able to talk through some of what would feel supportive to me, he was able to carry a lot of the cooking because he enjoys it. He's good at it. And in a nutshell, it was me learning to have powerful conversations with people when I recognized that I wasn't doing well. And I was falling into that old pattern of, well, I should. The hostess should be cooking. The hostess should look like this.
Wow.
These unspoken expectations on myself, and giving myself permission to let go of some of those expectations and ask honest questions of, what would feel supportive? Oh, it would feel great if my husband was helping out here. It actually feels great if I can take a step back. It doesn't make me a failure if I haven't cooked every dish from scratch from the beginning. It actually means that I am taking care of myself well if I understand my own capacity, ask for help where needed, and perhaps even drop some of the, it has to look like this. Maybe I don't have to do a 6-course meal, which I mean is a joke because I've never done 6-course meals anyway.
I was
But
like,
just in
Mel, we
case
need
you were
to talk.
thinking,
Stop now.
maybe we just do things a little more simply because it doesn't have to look like a Pinterest-worthy dining room table if that's not actually what's going to bring life to me or my family. So I would have said recognizing where I needed help. And another thing that I've recognized is when I need to take a step back, because one of the things my family loves to do, we do a lot of games. That's a way we connect. So board games, card games, things like that. And I've had to recognize when I'm at capacity and I just need to sit this round out. That's even been me confronting my FOMO of I want to be involved because these people only come at certain times of the year. So I need to be in every game and every interaction, and saying, it's actually okay if I sit this one out. It's 30 minutes. Is a more regulated present Melissa going to be more beneficial than playing another round and then maybe being frustrated if I lose and needing to put myself out and time out anyway because I'm really competitive? Recognizing I don't have to sit in every round. It doesn't matter if I sat in every round 2 years ago. What does present day Melissa need? Having the permission to recognize taking care of myself well ultimately is going to flow onto the people around me. Asking for help, sitting things out has been really important.
That's so relatable. And I just want to reflect back to you what I heard you saying, growing in that awareness and understanding your internal experience helps you have better relationships. You are already communicating well. You brought people in. You're able to show up differently relationally because you've known what's happening internally and you can make the choices you need for that
Yes.
to happen, for relational reciprocity and care and connection to be available. So important. Potluck for life.
Potluck for life. It extends an invitation to others to be able to take care of themselves too. If you're in my space, I take it upon myself to lead by example. I'm not responsible for you, but if I was a guest in someone's house and I didn't feel like anybody was ever allowed to sit down and take a rest, I would feel weird about sitting back and putting my feet up. So what's the atmosphere I'm wanting to create in my home? Or in general, I'm thinking specifically of when I'm hosting, but just in general, guest or host, what is the atmosphere that I'm wanting to bring with me? What kind of presence am I wanting to bring? Am I wanting a
Oh,
peaceful one or a frantic one? Which is better?
beautiful,
Mhm.
beautiful reflection and intentionality. Love that
Mm,
so much.
yeah. Let's talk about money now.
Let's do it because it's such a big part of the holiday season. I think this impacts families at every level. Where do you feel financial pressure during the holidays, Mel, especially in the work you do with clients, but also in the work you've done inside of yourself around money? What's present for you around holiday spending and budgeting and presents?
I feel like the marketing in general of every brand out there is buy, 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 buy. And the consumer pressure can feel very overwhelming at times, not to mention the social media or the friends, the family. What are they doing? How many presents are they buying? I think there's a lot of subtle, sometimes not so subtle pressures. Have I given enough? Have I bought enough presents for my kids? What about the teachers at school? Something that's what's unexpected pressure is the gifts that I wasn't planning on. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that one thing over there, that white elephant thing for the kids. There's so many opportunities to spend way beyond what you plan. And even when you've spent what you planned or intentionally planned,
Yeah.
the number of times I felt pressure to just run out and get that last minute gift because
Ugh.
what about one more thing for the stockings? It again comes back to the word sometimes excess for me is it's very easy to go excessive and overboard and then be potentially looking at January's credit card statements and feeling a level of regret or guilt or shame of, oops, I didn't show any restraint. What am I doing? Even intentional people can feel the pressure. And then I think if you don't go in with intentionality, sometimes it's just a heyday and you're just clicking add to cart, add to cart, add to
Chaos.
cart. And then
Yeah.
the regret can sometimes hit a bit later and you're going, did my kid really need that disposable toy that is not even going to last more than a month? Or they're going to play with it for a week and then it's going to be thrown to the side. There's just a lot of pressure bombarding us from all sides.
So relatable. Well, you spoke to this aspect even when you can be really intentional. Every year, without a doubt, there slides in about 5 or 6 things that I didn't plan on. Those white elephant gift. My kids are going to youth group and, and they have an exchange. And do I really want to spend $10 5 times for different things? This is about understanding what to do in those moments. How do you reconcile the decisions I can make and the decisions I've already chosen certain things? So what do I do now? And I think that pressure can really build in general because often we don't know what is our intention already.
Mhm.
What is the values we want to be placing? Is the value on getting the perfect gift or getting the perfect gift at the right price? Or is it really about connection or honor, or intentional giving? Are there nonprofits that we love? So it's helping you orient. What is it that you're really caring about? What matters at this season of your life? Maybe it's not the same thing that mattered last year. And maybe next year it'll be something different.
Well, it brings me back to something that I'm really passionate about, and it flows into the work that I do with people as well, is budgeting and spending in alignment with your values. So what is important to me? And you touched on intention. Intention is definitely a part of that, but values are a great place to start from. If you value giving back to society, is a way that you do it through a nonprofit, is a local food bank doing some sort of fundraiser where you get something. For instance, we've done World Wildlife Fund, and we have donated to that. And then my kids have gotten a sweatshirt or a plushie, and they've loved those. And I felt like I was giving to a cause that means something to me. Intentional giving, values-based giving. What can generosity look like beyond just spending money on things? Are there experiences? This year, for instance, we're doing a small stocking exchange when I have family coming in for Thanksgiving, but then over Christmas, we're going on a trip this year. And so we're not doing gifts for the family. Our travel and experience and then time together feels like what feels meaningful to us over the holidays. And
Yes.
so it's not going to be 50 presents under the tree. It's going to look like a trip together. That's where we have permission to really explore what feels good for our hearts.
Understanding what you value is a great place to go. Last year, we took our kids on Christmas Day. We flew into New York City, and it was so much fun. It was full of experience. And that's what's important to me at this point in my life and this point of my parenting is time. It's memories with my kids. I think that if the listener is noticing, what is it that I really value? How do I orient to that? I had like a flashback of Christmas past when we did something together really intentionally for a cause that we felt strongly for. And the value of being really intentional about that. So when I think about that year, that clips any other small little white elephant thing I had to buy begrudgingly from the dollar store. Those moments where you're intentional in accordance to your values really can set the tone. The feeling of generosity in your heart is such a powerful resource during this season.
Yes. And then when you spend and give in alignment with what's important to you, there's a satisfaction and ease. And I also find that I don't feel guilty after things like that. I'm not going, oops, that was an extra thing that I probably didn't need. How am I going to pay that off? There's not that same feeling because I think when there's so much coming at you externally, it's a time to learn to be grounded in your inner values. What can I be grounded in and what's important to me? And I have permission to say no to that constant external pressure of more, buy more, get more, do more, be more, have more. Just saying, I'm not going to buy into this narrative anymore. I'm actually going to disconnect. I can be powerful. I can say what's important to me. A few years ago, we started doing this 4-gift rule, which was a want, a need, a wear, and a read. And then sometimes they'd end up getting gifts from other family members and things like that. But for us, we started going, how do we be intentional about what you actually want? Many times I'd buy other things. It would look like the latest exciting gadget or toy. And then the kids would play with it for 5 minutes and be like, I'm done. And I thought, oh, I'm tired of spending money on things that aren't meaningful for the receiver and just feel like I'm ticking a box to how many gifts can I fill up. Whatever the imaginary expectation is we have on ourselves of what it looks like to be a good present giver or a good parent, fill in the blank with whatever, keeping up with the Joneses because so-and-so on social media looked like they had 50 color coordinated presents for each child under the tree. And so I need to keep up with what their definition of ideal parenting looks like, whatever the narrative is.
To me, what you just shared feels like a really helpful hint, like a tip. One thing that I thought of is what you're describing is the internal feeling of when you're buying something. Is this bringing me joy? I feel very Marie Kondo right now, but I have
Is it
noticed,
sparking joy?
Yeah, exactly. It's just as important as the feeling I'm experiencing when I'm giving this gift as the actual gift. And I can tell you right away that there have been moments where I'm begrudgingly or numbingly buying a gift to feel somebody on my list.
And maybe you don't even really want to give the gift or give to that person, but you feel obligated.
Totally. And then there's parts of me that probably, yeah, I do want to buy my nephew a present, but I'm so numbed out. I'm not really connected to any sense of generosity or joy. When you were sharing that tip, I was like, even if I'm noticing what I feel, I'm buying this thing for my nephew. This is so great. I love him. And he's going to have so much joy, or maybe not. But even internally, we can do a lot of work around giving. It's not
Yes.
just about being numb or consuming, noticing, am I just buying all this stuff because it's Black Friday? What am I doing?
It's
Stop.
on sale. I have to hit buy now.
I have 6 months worth of my favorite moisturizer now. So, yeah, things like that. You're laughing because you've done it. So relatable.
Crazy. It's crazy. It's one of the reasons I felt drawn more towards local artisans. I know some people are very anti supporting big establishments. And so they really are like, I'm going to take myself out of the consumerism giant machine. And I get that. I respect that kind of thing. I have not gone that extreme personally. I don't mind buying from Amazon. That doesn't bother me. But I've noticed a shift more towards thoughtful. Do I know somebody who's making things? Who do I know that has their own small business that I can support? Where are the handcrafted, more artisan-based businesses where I feel like when I'm giving to them, I'm actually supporting a real person, not just a company or a giant corporation that feels very impersonal to me. So it's like you said, there's pulling a personal touch into
Yes.
giving that I think is very easy to lose in the hustle and bustle of the holiday season.
Yeah.
So,
Such a good point.
Des, let's talk about self-care, personal rhythms, and routines in the holiday season. There are so many things that can throw us off our game. We've touched a little bit on travel, on family gatherings, things like that. But what are some ways that we can stay connected to our personal self-care and routines, even when things feel really busy around us and we're not in our regular rhythms?
This is interesting because I made an adjustment in a belief I was having about something that feels really relatable to this, because there's something to the idea of wintering. We're going to enter into winter, and I've tried to be as conscious about it as possible. But one thing I noticed is I've been sleeping in more. And I had a belief like, oh no, I shouldn't be sleeping in so much because I need to do 3 hours of all this stuff before I start work. Whatever the idea was, the point is the movement I made towards myself was I said, Des, it's okay that you need to rest right now. I allowed for the wintering to happen and to have kindness and compassion towards some of my physical needs. I'm going to tell you, we're going to be so tired. It's going to be so many things going on. It would make sense that we need more rest. It would make sense that we need these things, allowing myself to have that need. And because I do want to winter, I sort of want to hibernate. I want to be more sedentary or more snuggly. It gets dark earlier. So, what are the things that I can do for myself while I'm in that wintering experience without numbing out? So, yes, I'm sitting on the couch, but let me notice the fire. Let me be really present with the sound of it. I'm trying to be more intentional to really drop in and take in whatever the season holds.
Sounds like you're wanting to tune into your senses in a time
Yes.
where we might just be tempted to numb out. You're talking about if I become more present, even what are my five senses noticing it?
Exactly. And every day I walk. And so I keep that practice for myself. But I'm also noticing the leaves. Every day they're changing colors and now they're dropping more and more. And I'm present with the changes as a way to support myself through a very busy season. I keep the habits that are life-giving, and I'm intentional with being present to my five senses while doing them, so that life isn't just time is going so quickly. But one of the ways to slow down is to actually be as present in the moments of your life that you are having.
Mm. Do you have any practicals that you'd recommend to the listener who might be wanting some guidance there, recognizing, oh, yeah, I get a little bit checked out over holidays. I really would like to be more present this time.
Yeah. So again, if you are a walker, I would encourage you to go outside.
Mm.
Notice the sound of the leaves. I kick the leaves and I notice the sound of them, the birds, feel the temperature, really drop in. Even in a simple thing like eating, I would encourage you to taste your food. Slow down, notice the textures, notice the temperature, notice the flavor with what you're drinking. You can set your alarm to go off at certain times of the day on your phone to like, oh, what am I doing? Am I just numbing and going through the motions? Can I slow down and be present to my life, even if it's folding laundry?
Mm-hmm.
How do I notice what it's like to fold the laundry right now? So the alarm can really help, whatever that time that's consistently built in for me to be present with myself during the season.
There's different things you can do depending on where you are. Sometimes you might be home, and so there is a little bit more freedom to stick with some of those rituals or habits that you have. There's also things you can do when you're traveling and you're out of your familiar environment and taking things like your vitamins and supplements if you're going to go somewhere. It's bringing that journal or your set of
Mhm.
headphones so you can just listen to some music, something that you can bring from home that will feel like that familiar touch point for you. Because I used to sometimes feel that when I wasn't at home, I had to throw it all out and just kind of grit my teeth through it and bear it until I could get back. I would get more and more and more dysregulated. I'd feel more and more out of kilter. And then sometimes I'd get to the end of wherever I was and I'd be so anxious. I'd be so out of my own routine that I would get back home and it would take me days to slot back in again because I felt like I had just not allowed myself some of those regular habits that I needed because I just didn't feel permission. I thought, oh, I'm at someone else's house or I'm in another place. And I would let external expectations and unfamiliar environments dictate more to me rather than deciding on some key factors of, oh, I am going to take 5 minutes to journal every morning. I am going to read something that feels meaningful that's going to help me feel grounded for the day. That's actually okay for me to do. And I'd encourage you if you're traveling, just think of those 2, 3, 5 simple things that you could throw into your suitcase. Sometimes I'll throw in my satin pillowcase because I love the feel of it. It keeps my hair from getting too frizzy. Something simple like that that I can throw in my suitcase if I'm going somewhere. And it just is a taste of home that helps me feel connected to rhythms that sometimes feel a little bit out of whack when I'm traveling.
You're saying you have permission
Mhm.
to excuse yourself and go for a walk, or you have permission to do your 10 minutes of yoga in your room and not come down for breakfast for a while. What is it that you need? If we think we're going to get the same exact experience when we're on vacation, the expectation will lead to such disappointment. So I don't want to set an expectation, but what does feel helpful? Those 10 minutes of yoga, that's non-negotiable for me, or the stretching
Mhm.
or the walk. And maybe you're going to drive down to the local gym and you're going to pay the day pass and you're going to work out. What's the priority for you to really support yourself when you're not at home, when you know you're going to be exposed to a lot of emotional and relational experiences, when there's been a lot of spending, there's been a lot of pressure around certain things. Really knowing what you need is such a gift that you can give yourself.
And letting yourself off the hook if you don't get it perfect. Step away from black and white thinking. I didn't get to the gym 5 days a week. My whole fitness
Yes.
routine is completely down the toilet. I mean, that's just not true. Let's try to hold a little bit of nuance because I have been that person. I've gone, oh man, I was doing so well. And now I feel like I've lost all the ground I've gained because I wasn't able to do my routine the way that I had worked it out and recognizing, okay, it's just not going to be the same. The holidays, the things aren't open. Some hours aren't the same for stores or gyms or whoever you go to on a regular basis. Things are going to be out of whack, and that's okay. Just because it's different doesn't mean it's bad. But I know for me, an area I've had to grow is not having this all or nothing black and white thinking. I failed if I didn't do my 5 days of workout this week. It's in conjunction with maybe more eating, more drinking, more food, those kinds of things. It's recognizing that it's going to look different and preparing for it, and then
Yeah.
not making it the end of the world if it looks different, because it's gonna look different right now, and so you're not a failure if something doesn't go exactly the way you had hoped, or you weren't able to keep your routine as you'd hoped, lowering our unrealistic expectations to something that's a little bit more aligned with what our capacity really is can make for a much more gracious experience for ourselves.
Absolutely. It ultimately feels very compassionate to hold nuance, for it to not be black or white. There is no pass or fail. Often we have a sense that we can mess it up, or there was a certain standard that we should be able to meet. By noticing where we want to control, often we get into black or white because we feel some level of safety by controlling the experience, like 1 hour of workout, or I spent this much money, or I had this much time. Leaning into more of the middle ground is often safer because we can't control everything. We cannot control what's open. We can't control the kids. We can't control their game schedule and their tournament schedule. There's so many things we cannot control. So nuanced and middle ground is actually the place we need to keep cultivating, that it's safe and good for us to live in and think and flow through for this holiday season.
I think that leads us to our conclusion points that we want to make with this conversation, which is returning to what is really important in this season. There are so many things yelling and screaming at us in these final weeks of the year, and it can be so easy to get distracted, disoriented, off track. But returning to what is most important, which for me is being present, the connection with my loved ones, the connection with God, with my own heart.
For me to remember that I don't have to perform, there's no pass or fail. I can believe that my best is good enough. I can say, I forgot about that thing, or I dropped the ball. And you know what? That's okay. It's a really human experience to even support my own capacity and my limits, to be present with my body. Very important growth that I've cultivating still. And I'm going to take that with me in this holiday season. I think that a human that believes they're failing shows up very differently. So if I think I'm failing, if I think I'm not doing enough, I think the kids are going to not be happy, or my husband, whatever it is, if you are coming into it with that internal belief, it will impact your season. So I just would love for the listener to remove a sense of failure.
Write yourself some permission slips if you need to. Get out some little sticky notes and give yourself permission to say no. Give yourself permission to go home if you need to go to your room and read a book for a little while. Think about what you need. Think about what's most important. Recognize perfection is not the goal here. That is a rat race you will never finish. It's a lesson we're both still learning. So we're taking so many of these lessons to heart ourselves and implementing them too.
Absolutely. And if there's anything in what we've shared that you feel invited into, maybe there's one small shift that you can make. Even if you're doing one of those, good for you, good for me. If we could do 10% more awareness and acknowledgement of what we're needing, 10% more boundaries internally or externally. We'd love to hear what your takeaways are and the things that you're going to implement this season too. That would be a great way for us to hear from you.
Thanks for being here, friends. Have a wonderful holiday. For those of you who celebrate, happy Thanksgiving for tomorrow. In the spirit of thankfulness, we are so grateful for you, our listeners. Thank you for being here. And for the rest of you around the world, have a wonderful rest of your week, and we will see you next Wednesday. Bye.
Bye.